Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Music of the Week. I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time with this one. I got 6 albums to go through, so I'm going to go through them as quickly as I can to do this. We begin with Dragon Force, and their newest album, Warp Speed Warriors. Pretty much everyone knows these guys. Power slash speed metal band from England, specifically sort of from Europe, but all from England. I'm giving this one a B. Just another really fun and just really goofily charming Dragon Force album. The lyrics are like nothing to really be taken seriously. There's less fantasy elements and there's more songs about video games, which I'm fine with. Power of the Triforce and all that. It's just a really good Dragon Force album. The thing is, that's kind of its problem. It doesn't really push the boundaries out. Also, it's technically got 10 songs on it, but the last one is a cover of a Taylor Swift song, which I think is Wildest Dreams, which I've never listened to, and I don't count cover songs. So, if you want to get technical, there's really only 9 songs on the standard edition of the album. It's just me. I hate it when bands end with a cover on a fucking album, I really do. But the band themselves are really good. Alicia Vigil, who's the new bassist, she absolutely kills it, even though you can barely hear her because bass has never been the main thing for Dragon Force. It's always been about the guitar work, really, and the drumming, and Herman Lee and Sam Topman are still great. Mark Hudson is still a fantastic vocalist, and this might be drummer G. Angelone's best work, I would say. He just sounds a lot more comfortable on the kit than he has on the past couple of albums. Sorry for my hair. And considering that this is the band's first album in like 5 years, which is something I'll bring up for another band a bit later on. A couple of other bands later on, now I'm looking at the list here. It's amazing that they're able to return to form. Really well produced, a lot of fun. You're not going to get anything new out of it, but you don't really need anything new, you just need to know that it's Dragon Force, and it's good. Next we have Gouge Away with what I believe is only their second album, Deep Sage. This is more of a sort of post-hardcore sort of band, I think, sort of metalcore thing. I'm also giving this one a B. I really enjoyed a lot of the parts of it. I think the main thing that stood out for me was the emotion. There's a lot of really good weight to what's being said by the lead vocalist, who is a female whose name I can't remember, but she absolutely kills it. And the instrumentation is really good too. It's got that like really harsh and sort of staticky sounding hardcore feel that can be difficult to get right, but it does sound really good. And the band just sounds so believable. And while the writing is good, there's not much variety with it. A lot of the lines repeat themselves throughout the songs that are on, and it leads to repetitive structuring as well, which I didn't really like a lot. And also the production is a weird thing, and it's weird because because this album was produced by Jack Shirley, and last year Jack Shirley had a great fucking year, even though I didn't put any of the albums he produced on any of my lists for 2023, on any of my top 30, and I feel genuinely bad for that, because dude had a killer year last year. And I don't know, it feels like this was a bit of a misstep for him. It feels a bit too clean in places, and it could have benefited from a much grittier vibe. And I think that would have made things feel a little bit better, but it is still really good. And this is a band still early in their career, it's still in their infancy. Really, really good emotive hardcore, which I quite like. Again, focused on how it's being said and not what's actually written, I think, is the main thing with the lyrics, which do have some good vibes to them. From what I can remember about themes, obviously there'll be a text thing to make up for the stuff I can't remember. But yeah, it's more about the emotion and the passion brought into it, and really good riffs. Next we have the Kaiser Chiefs with their 8th album, Kaiser Chiefs Easy 8th album. Like it doesn't make me laugh any less. I'm only giving it a C+, and believe it or not, that's only the second lowest grade of the episode. Yeah. So, much like with Dragon Force, this is Kaiser Chiefs' first album in 5 years, because I think Duck came out in 2019. Because I remember I did that for backtracking when I covered these guys for that. And, this is more their typical, charming Brit pop rock, punk sort of style, with more of a dance and funk element to it in places, and it's a very fun album, and it doesn't really feel, it doesn't feel like anything the band hasn't really done before. They're still as charming as ever, especially vocalist Ricky Wilson. He's not lost any of his charisma or his really good singing ability. I think it can come off as a bit overproduced at times, and undercooked in terms of timing. This is only like 29 minutes-ish, just under half an hour, roughly. And it doesn't really do a lot with the time it's given. It just feels very cookie cutter in terms of its pacing. But, the production does have some good elements, and again, while the lyrics are not to be taken seriously, I do like that they're actually trying something new in terms of just experimenting a little bit, which is really, really good. I think we're a long way from Off With Their Heads, which I still think is their best album, or at least I call it the best album backtracking when I did the episode for them. I can't remember. But, you know, if you just want some charming and silly British punky stuff with some nice dancey, poppy, funk elements, then this will fill the gap. You know, if you just want something non-serious and relatively short, this will do. Speaking of British punkish bands, we have Kid Kapichi with their new album, There Goes the Neighbourhood. It feels very weird to say that this is a band I've been listening to since they dropped their first album, and from only like 4 years into dropping studio albums at least, because, you know, first one came out 2021, second one came out 2022, this one came out last weekend. I'm giving this one the highest grade of the episode, which is an A. Really enjoyed it. One of the more political ones, especially like with the satire it brings. My favourite song of this thing is called Can EU Hear Me? And it's a great pro-immigration song that also takes the piss out of people who do not like immigrants. It's fucking brilliant in that case, and a lot of the songs are quite like that. There's a couple of songs which are weirdly just about being in a relationship, but they're not fully out of place here, you know? They do sort of fit, but mostly it's just the band's coolness that they've never really needs to improve on, but they just do for some reason. They've never really lost that air about them, and I like that there's just so much energy to the album too. It's a very fun album, much like with Guys Juice, but, you know, a lot more bearable, and this band actually does more with it as well. There's not really too much in the way of outside elements, but, you know, really good punk. I like the I like the lyrical themes. I like the performances as well. The lead vocalist gives it his all. There's really good drumming too. Production is quite nice. Really adds a lot of texturing to the sound. And I do like the structuring as well. It does mix things up quite nicely, and it's mostly got a really energetic vibe to it. It does end with a nice sort of acoustic-ish song too, and it does dare to throw in some weirder elements, like on the song Zombie Nation is a good example, featuring Skuggs, I think his name is. But yeah, just really good stuff from this band, and this might be their best album. Next, we have Lutharo and what I think is their second album, titled Chasing Euphoria. This is a band I heard about like last month through a YouTube ad, and I heard obviously the song that was promoting this album, titled fuck, I don't remember. Anyway, this gets an A as well. I really fucking enjoyed this one. So people know that I've sort of grown a bit out of favour with female-fronted sort of metal bands, because I had to cover a lot of them sounding very fucking similar for backtracking. But this band actually tries to mix in some really interesting things. Also, the lead singer's name is Krista Shipperbottom, which I'm sorry, I can't help but giggle at. I'm going to be 32 next month, Jesus Christ. But she's a fucking great vocalist. She absolutely slays it on the pipe. She's got really good clean singing as well. Very nice vibrato. Really operatic vibe. Her screaming is really good too, but it's her clean singing which I think is her like best weapon. And I like that she does mix it up with the screaming, and the guitar work's amazing. The guitar solos on this album are fucking so good. There's so many great guitar solos on this thing. And I guess maybe the pacing might be my biggest sort of issue, and also the fact that you can't really find much in terms of lyrics unless you're really looking. There is some stuff about impairments and the, you know, struggling to be happy, which are good themes and very unique ones for metal bands who can sort of lean too much into the fantasy thing, which is, I think, is why I fell out of favour with the style so much when I did, like, Season 5 of Backtracking. But this band tries to go in a different direction and mostly, and almost completely succeeds. They just have a lot of passion for this, clearly. Really good guitar work, love the drumming too. I like that there's thrash and death elements mixed in with the more traditional heavy metal stuff. And yeah, really good pacing. Great production too. And this is the first time I've heard of the label Atomic Fire, and I don't know who they got to produce it, but whoever they did get did a great job. So yeah, no, just really fucking good. If you just want some really good heavy metal, go pick it up. And finally, we get to Mad Caddies with their newest album, Arrow's Room 117. Okay, so you know how I alluded to, sort of alluded to this earlier when I was talking about Dragon Force, like near the start. Mad Caddies has been around since 1995. This is their first album in about 6 years. And I'm giving it a D-, because how do you take elements of like traditional ska punk and reggae, which is what the band usually do, how do you take that, which is usually quite an exciting, fun genre. Mix that with country-leaning cowpunk, which is also a very exciting genre, and make it sound so fucking boring. I listened to this album once, and I could not tell you any distinctions between any of the songs. They repeat the same tired, bloody formula, and they take so long to get there. And the worst thing is, you would think that brass instruments like saxes, trumpets, and so on would work really well with like more country-leaning sort of stuff that they're trying. And it's like there's walls between the punk side, the country side, no pun intended, and the ska side, and it doesn't gel. And there's even an attempt to mix in sort of a pop punk vibe, which also doesn't really work. And I think that's just evident from the lyrics, because there's so many lyrics. Like, the band lie and say that the lyrics are about, really personal things in their lives, and they're mostly just about girls. They're so not well written at all. Oh man, so, is there anything good about the album? Yes. The production is actually kind of decent, and that's mostly helped by Descendants producer and one of the best punk producers of the modern era, Bill Stevenson, who does his best with the mess he's given. But again, it feels like he's too much adults with the band, because it feels like he's got good ideas and the band just don't. And I say this when in my written review on Discord, the band come across as the kind of guys that would slip something in your drink and not tell you until next weekend. That's just the vibe they give me. It's just very uncomfortable. I felt weirdly uncomfortable listening to an album that's supposed to be this exciting. There's no variation in the pacing except for one song named Baby, which is 8 songs into the album. And also, the album is 42 fucking minutes long with 12 songs, which is not bad in itself. But when nothing happens, except for like one spark in one song that isn't great anyway, but just has something exciting going for it, it's so goddamn egregious and so unnecessarily dragged out. And they could have filled it with so much interesting stuff. There was so much potential. And, you know, like I said with Dragon Force, I'm just going to say it here with Mad Caddies, there was no fucking excuse for this shit. You know, I get that they changed a couple of members, so did Dragon Force. You know, but, like, this is a band that's been around since 1995. They've been around for 30 years, and this is the best that they could do after 6 years out. Massive disappointment, and easily up for my worst album of the year. Again, I don't do worsties, but good lord, the production is the one thing saving this from getting it like an E grade. But yeah, the lyrics are fucking stupid and full of shit, to be frank. The instrumentation is so uninspired and so fucking boring. The performances are just kind of douchey. I don't know, they kind of try to come off as charming and a bit silly, but it just doesn't work, and they come across as assholes, and the pacing just does nothing really. It doesn't do anything, so just avoid this one. Next is the ranking system. I'm sorry for my long ass rant there about the Mad Caddies album, so we'll just get that out of the way now. Bottom is Mad Caddies album, then Kaiser Chiefs, then, it's difficult, but I'll go with Gouge Away, then Dragon Force, and then with the top 2 it's difficult. I'd go with Luthara, then Kick a Peach at the top, but you could easily interchange those two and I wouldn't disagree with you. As for favourite song, that is quite difficult. But I think just because of how much fun I have listening back to it, I'll have to go with Can EU Hear Me by Kikipichi from There Goes the Neighborhood. And they are up for favourite album cover as well, because their album cover reminds me a lot of an old Black Flag album from, you know, all the other ones up until What The, basically. But I'll have to give favourite album cover to Lutharo's album, because it's just got this really sort of almost Dark Soulsy, sort of creepy vibe to it, which I kind of like. It just looks really nice. That'll about do it then. The next thing you'll see me for will be tomorrow, the return show for BBW vs ABW. We've had our week off after War of Attrition. We're returning tomorrow night, and then next thing you'll see for after that might be a Fight the Night review this weekend, because I think there's a card this weekend. I could be wrong. So I'll see you all for that shit. As always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye bye.